Hare Krishna. Okay, just us. And whoever's out there, welcome. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotirtha Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajikacharya Ashtotirtha Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, give me a second here. Get everything in order. 57 is on the board, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 25th day of December 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 15, Instructions for Civilized Human Beings, Text 57. Adab Ante Jananam Sad Bahir Antaha Paravaram Jnanam Gyeyam Vacho Vachyam Tamo Jyotis Tu Ayam Swayam Adab Ante Jananang Syad Bahirantak Paravaram Jnanam Gyeyam Vacho Vachyam Tamo Jyotis Swayam Swayam Adav Ante Jananang Sad Bahirantak paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam Arab ante jananang sad Bahiranta paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam Adavante jananang sad Bahirantak paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam Adavante jananang sad Bahirantak paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam Adavante jananang sad Bahirantak paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam Adavante jananang sad Bahirantak paravaram Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam Tamo jyoti swayam swayam. Anyone online? No, not today.
Adavante jananam sad
Adavante jananang sad
Bahirantak paravaram
Bahirantak paravaram
Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam
Jnanam geyam vacho vachyam
Tamo jyoti swayam swayam.
Tamo jyoti swayam swayam. Okay. Now, in the beginning, ante, at the end, jananam, of all living entities, sat, always existing, bahihi, externally, antaha, internally, para, transcendental, avaram, material, jnanam, knowledge, geyam, the objective of knowledge, vachaha, expression, vachyam, the ultimate object, tamaha, darkness, jyotihi, light, tu, indeed, ayam, this one, the Supreme Lord, swayam, himself. Translation, Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. He who exists he who exists internally and externally, at the beginning and the end of everything, and of all living beings, as that which is enjoyable and as the enjoyer of everything, superior and inferior, is the Supreme Truth. He always exists as knowledge and the object of knowledge, as expression and the object of understanding, as darkness and as light. Thus he, the Supreme Lord, is everything. Please repeat. He who exists internally and externally, at the beginning and end of everything, and of all living beings, as that which is enjoyable and as the enjoyer of everything, superior and inferior, is the Supreme Truth. He always exists as knowledge and the object of knowledge, as expression and the object of understanding, as darkness and as light. Thus he, the Supreme Lord, is everything. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here the Vedic aphorism Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahma is explained. It is also explained in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.33, 34, 35, 36. These words, Aham evasam evagre. The Supreme Lord existed in the beginning. He exists after the creation and maintains everything. And after destruction, everything merges into Him, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Prakritim yanti mamikam. Thus, the Supreme Lord is actually everything. In the conditioned state, we are bewildered in our understanding. Oh. Thank you. Thank you, Hare Krishna. In the conditioned state, we are bewildered in our understanding. But in the perfect stage of liberation, we can understand that Krishna is the cause of everything. Say after me. Ishvarak Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. This is the perfection of knowledge. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So now Narada Muni is explaining to Yudhishthira the tattva of Krishna, which is that he exists eternally. He is everything in the sense that he's the cause of everything, and everything that exists is either expansions of his energy or expansions of his very self. Expansions of examples of the first is Bhuma Apa Ono Vaya, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are all material elements which compose this world that we live in and our very bodies. And then, but beyond all that, there's a spiritual energy that we can't directly perceive with our material senses. He's also the source of that. So in a very real sense, we can say that Krishna is everything. But not that you can worship anything as Krishna. This is the fallacy that you can go into. You know, the Ridra, Narayan, and all these different things. But it's important to realize, and for our progression in Krishna consciousness, that there isn't anything we can look at or experience or taste or touch or smell that isn't actually Krishna's energies. And therefore, he's present in everything. And he's also present in every atom. Andantarasta padamana chayantarastam. I don't know if you've ever thought of what that means. It's a very poetic way. Andantarasta padamanu means all of the atoms. Anu means very small, and Paramanu means the smallest, the supremely small. Paramanu. So, Andantarasta Paramanu. So, Andantarasta Paramanu means all the atoms in the universe, in the Anda. Anda is the egg of the universe. Andantarasta Paramanu, Shayantarastam. He himself was within inside all those atoms which are within and scattered throughout. So, where is he not? He's perceived everywhere. So, what does that mean? This is like a foundational principle of our Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada quotes these 4 essential verses, beginning Ahame Vasame Bagre Nanyan Yat Sarasat Padam Tasmad Aham Nirechasya Yo Vishisheta Sosmiham. Ahame Vasame Bagre. Agre means in the beginning. In the beginning, I alone existed. There was no manifestation. You know, everything is wound up inside Mahavishnu like that. So there's no material manifestation. But then, Nanyat Yat Sarasat Param. There's nothing else, and this Sarasat, the eternal and the temporary, all existed in like their seed form within me. And after I create everything, we read in various parts of the literature how Krishna expanded as the Chatuvyuha, And then Sankarshan expands as Mahavishnu, the second Chandapur, then that Sankarshan expands as Mahavishnu, and then he emanates all the universes, then each universe he expands again as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and on Garbhodaksha Vishnu gives birth to Brahma, and then all the creation starts taking place, and then the third Vishnu, Chirodaksha Vishnu, he's the silver soul in every heart, in every atom, and he also has his own planet resting on the ocean of milk. So this is a little summary of the creation. But all of that, certainly the Vishnus are expansions of Krishna, what Prabhupada called plenary portions. They have Krishna's power, but they don't manifest it all. They manifest a certain portion of it. This is what the plenary expansions mean. And the energy expansions, material energy and the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in all this material universe is the living entities, and also when Krishna is there, there's the internal energy in the form of the living entities, and also we'll find that the Ladini Shakti also manifests sometimes, and gives us a chance to become bhaktas. So if you understand this philosophy, then wherever you look, you see Krishna. You understand, oh, this is an expansion of his energies. But you can only have that vision when, really in truth, when you're not trying to exploit. When you're trying to exploit Krishna's energies, then he disappears personally. You can see his energies, material energies, and you can try really hard to exploit them. And you can also experience some sense pleasure, right? But then my favorite verse comes into play. That these sense pleasures, whether it's touch, taste, smell, hearing, whatever it may be, is the source of all misery. And it has a beginning and an end. Unlike spiritual pleasure, which ultimately, if you really learn how to taste it, doesn't have an end. It doesn't have an end. And the beginning is only beginning for you, because you come out of your spell under Maya after millions of births. So this is the way the acharyas, the Mahabhagavats, they see the world and they see themselves as at every moment surrounded by Krishna, manifesting by Krishna. And having the duty as servants of Krishna to try to engage as much of this material energy in his service and as much of the spiritual living beings in the direct service of Krishna. That's the whole imperative to preach. You feel that I have the secret. I myself am tasting this bliss of Krishna consciousness at every moment in my relation to Krishna, which I can perceive with my spiritual vision and spiritual senses because of the purification that takes place. What is that famous verse that we cannot see or perceive Krishna with these blunt senses? Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayam Indriyai. So with these blunt senses, we cannot perceive Krishna directly in his spiritual form. But Sevan Mukhe Hijivado Swayam Evasparattada. By beginning to serve Krishna with the tongue, by chanting and tasting prasad. Because chanting implies hearing as well. Sevan Mukhe Jivado Swayam Evasparattada. Then Krishna, proportionately to our purification, he manifests himself. No longer do you just see a tree. You see, oh, this poor tree, there's a living entity in there due to some serious sinful activity. This was his fate. They had to stand for, probably would always say 5,000 years, but these trees maybe 100 years or whatever. But it's very sobering to realize that, oh, the soul in this tree is no different than me. But due to certain activities, and the consciousness was so low that he's now having to suffer in this body. And the suffering, mostly suffering, is because it's so covered. Your consciousness is so covered. It's not that the tree is thinking, oh, what did I do? It's just, sensing the sunshine, doesn't even know what it's called, and somehow turn the leaves out to get some sunshine, And then, did anyone water me yesterday or in the last 3 months? All right, I'm getting kind of dry, I don't know if they're even thinking like that. But it's a sobering thought to realize that every one of these living entities in the ocean, in the air, in the sun, everything, was once in the spiritual world. And due to this rebellious nature, because this is such a wonderful part of our philosophy, there has to be this element of free will for the living entity. Because without that, there's no meaning to love. There's no meaning to love unless it's freely given. So that's why even in this state, in this world, it all depends on us voluntarily doing something, changing our behavior. The first thing we voluntarily do is pick up that book that I got from that nice guy 3 years ago, and I just put it on the shelf. But now I think I'm in a little trouble in my life. Let me check out that Bhagavad Gita. That's the first thing, is to open up yourself to receive the message and receive the knowledge, and take it in such a way that you feel that I want to transform my life according to these things. It's a rare souls, even though there's several million devotees undoubtedly, and in India there's devotees who are not part of ISKCON but are still Vaishnavas in various states. But those who are, seriously practicing and wanting to advance in devotional service and go back to Godhead in this life if possible, or maybe the next life, are still very rare. Because it means 100 degrees or 180 degrees different. Instead of me being the enjoyer and the master, we're just now reading the latter part of the 16th chapter in our evening classes, where the divine and demoniac, most of it's about the demoniac. And we're about to come to these verses, which I often quote, where Krishna is winding up his instructions. And he says, Trivadam narakatsedam dvaram nashanam atmanam. Kama, Krodha, Tata, Lobha, Tasmareta, Triyantajade. He just described how he cast the truly demonic down into, demonic species for so many years. He uses the word perpetually, but it doesn't mean forever. We know that. But still, it should really sober us up to read that chapter. So here he's summarizing. There are 3 gates leading to this hell that I just described. Hell is Trivadam, Naraka. Naraka means hell. Dvaram is a gate, Dvaram nashanam atmanaha, which practically destroys the soul. The soul can't be destroyed, but for all practical purposes for a long time. What are they? Kama, Krodha, Tata, Lobha. Lust, anger, and greed. Now, which one of us hasn't experienced all of those to some degree in our material life? I know Sureshwar hasn't. He could probably sleep through it, doesn't he? But the point is, they're all around us. If you don't have the exposure to this philosophy and someone who can sincerely teach it to you and exemplify it, then you're bound to get caught up in those things, right? I remember watching TV when it was black and white, and some child's game, and actually they had this thing where you put the cover over the screen and you also participated that way. You remember that? So what's the idea? That of course there's an advertisement geared toward the kids that they'll whine to their parents, please buy me this, that's based on the cartoon that you just saw, you know what I mean? So from the very beginning, they're cultivating this lust. It's appropriate for a little child. It's not sex life, obviously, but it's personal desire, and that's what life is all about. And then when you learn how important it is to go to school and study your books so that you'll have a good job and make money and you'll be secure, rather than like these poor people on the street. Of course, in my day, we didn't have those. You had to go to the Bowery to find them, where Prabhupada lived for a few months. But still, the idea is it's sobering. If you're going to make it materially, you got to work, you got to study. And don't be a fool. So. Even though that's long-term material, but still it's not in the category of shreyas. It's just prayas, drawn out a little more, so that in a future time you'll be able to enjoy all kinds of immediate pleasure. You see what I'm saying? So it's as Prabhupada so aptly called it, under the spell of Maya. It's a spell. And what is the Bhagavatam? What is Krishna and Krishna's teachings in the Gita doing? They're trying to, we've seen this kind of way. You get slapped around a little bit, and wake up out of your stupor and said, "Oh God, I don't know what happened to me." That's what we need in the form of the philosophy. Otherwise, we'll suffer in Maya, but we won't know why. Like in today's culture, in the political culture. So many people are suffering, the billionaires are getting wealthier, people can't buy their groceries. I mean, I had been shopping at the Sprouts for a long time, and it wasn't always that you had to pay $1.50 for one avocado. Please, it used to be $5 for 10 or something, Anyway, but now that's what it is, and it gradually inches up, and people on fixed income and so forth are very difficult. So this is what they're thinking about. And healthcare, this, I don't like to bring these things in, but one guy went crazy. He wasn't even he wasn't even in the health company that this guy ran, but he assassinated a guy on the streets of New York. He just planned to murder him and he killed him. The CEO of some big health insurance company. Why? Because how to make more money. They don't care about you. Your health is a way to make more money. So the best way to make money is when you claim something. Said, "Oh, that's not under your thing. We can't help you with that." You were paying all this money on healthcare. Finally, you get sick and said, "Oh, that's not covered." Great, So even though he's out and out murder, cold-blooded murder, he's got all the support online on social media. He's got people glorifying him. It's an insane situation. So that's just an example of how distorted and crazy things can get when people there's no influence of real spiritual knowledge. And all you get is the demoniac things and people trying to convince you to buy things that you don't need. The whole culture is to buy things you don't need with money you don't have and go into debt. So the people in general will suffer so much. So the real devotees, they absorb this knowledge. And what are we reading here? He exists internally and externally, the beginning and the end of everything, and of all living beings. He is that which is enjoyable and is the enjoyer of everything. Now this is a kind of a paradox. Enjoyable means that we can enjoy his company, but he himself is the enjoyer of everything. How does that take place? The only way it works is if you get your joy by giving him enjoyment. That's the essence of bhakti. And you can see how it's exactly opposite to the egotistical, I am, Ishvaroham. This is one line in the 16th chapter. I memorized it as soon as I read it. Krishna is pretending to be a demon, and he's speaking like a demon. Ishvaroham, aham bogi, siddhoham, balavan sukhi. It's like the mantra of the mafia or something, or some petty tyrant, or not so petty, whatever. I'm the Ishvara, right? Who was it? Genghis Khan, who conquered all of Russia. He came out of, where Mongolia is now. So they had the horses that was new, these horses, and they came and they conquered even into Europe, And the problem was, of course, how can you communicate and run a big society like that back in 1300 AD? There's no telephone or anything. Anyway, but he was the big macha, Genghis Khan. But the time came, I don't know how he finally lost power, probably some intrigue from some other guy, and then he got too old, died, and what the hell. But while he's living, he's saying, that mantra belongs to me, Ishvaroham, aham bogi, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the master, I'm the enjoyer, I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. Sounds like Hiranyakashipu, right? So, and that's the real essence of the material world, is that it's for souls who have rebelled against Krishna, turned away. This whole thing of turning your face away, turning your consciousness away, that's always there. Krishna bahirmukha jeev bhoga vanchakari. Krishna bahirmukha means turning externally to the material world, away from Krishna, forgetting. Why? Bhoga vanchakari, because you want to enjoy bhoga, like Krishna, you see. And then it says, Prabhupada always quotes this verse, Nikatastamaya tare japati yadari. Maya is right there. And then she grabs you and tackles you, just like tackles you and brings you down, covers your knowledge, and you're in the material world. So knowing that, we don't want to reenact that anymore, right? In other words, we have to turn back to Krishna, hear him, meditate on him, find out what he wants us to do, and do it. And the first injunction is chant Hare Krishna. Well, that's pretty easy. I can do that, And if you do that, if you actually understand, of course, the significance of it, not just as a interlude in your material life, but actually seriously, especially, then everything opens up, and you realize how enjoyable that can be. It's just the chanting alone, especially if you're with other devotees, and nice music and the dancing and all of these things. So, and as Prabhupada again and again would say, and it's free. We're not asking any payment, you know. Of course, that's a little, you know, that's true. But then ultimately he said, Krishna wants everything. He wants everything. But that he'll give you everything. He'll give you eternal life, reinstatement in the spiritual world. You see, Satchidananda living. That's why it's so important to read the books, read the Nectar of Devotion, the Krishna book, and find out just what life is like in the spiritual world. And how, you know, dangerous it is to not take the whole process and the philosophy seriously. It's a very dangerous world. You can easily get covered over, and you know, another million years goes by, completely. Of course, as we know, if you do some bhakti, then that's in your eternal bank account. So next birth, well, why postpone to next birth? I mean, I don't even know if I want to postpone to next month, the way things are going in this earth. You know what's happening next month. I don't even want to mention it. Hare Krishna. But that's what we're faced with, you know. So there it is. Okay, so let's go through this wonderful purport. Even the translation itself is, he's the enjoyer of everything. He always exists as knowledge and the object of knowledge, as expression and the object of understanding, as darkness and as light. Thus he, the Supreme Lord, is everything. It reminds me of this one line Prabhupada would sometimes quote from a verse. Idam mi Vishwan Bhagavan ivetaraha. If you just take the first few words, Idam hi Vishwan Bhagavan, simply means, very simply, this universe is Bhagavan. Really? You know? But, the next thing, Ivetaraha. But it seems to be different. Idra. Why does it seem to be different? Because we don't understand it's all Krishna's energies. We don't understand that he's present in every atom as the super soul. And you don't understand that everything has emanated from him. So in all of these different ways, he is the universe through his energies. So he's everything, it says right here. And Prabhupada quotes Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, is this famous phrase from the Upanishads. Everything is Brahma, because Brahman means the great, and it's another word for Krishna, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's the Lord and his energies is all Brahma, it's one meaning. Prabhupada cites the first line of the first verse of the Chaturshloki, Aham evasame vagre, I existed before. So he exists before, everything exists, and after creation he exists, he maintains everything, and after destruction everything merged in him. So as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Thus the Supreme Lord is actually everything. But in the conditioned state we're bewildered in our understanding. But in the perfect stage of liberation we can understand that Krishna is the cause of everything. Then he quotes the first verse of the Brahma Samhita, which really is such an important verse, foundational verse. Ishvarak Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller, supreme. Satchidananda Vigraha. He's not formless. He has a form which is eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. You see? There's no beginning to him, Anadir, but he is the beginning of everything. Anadir Adir. And Govinda, he has all these pastimes where he pleases the cows and the senses and the land and everything. He's not some impersonal force. And Sarva Karana Karanam, he's the cause behind everything that we see. So much knowledge in that one verse. And then what does Prabhupada say? Does anyone remember the last sentence of the purport? This is the perfection of knowledge. So we can say that about all of Prabhupada's books. So actually there's, the next verse is also very important. And if you have no questions on this one, we'll move on. Yes, Prabhu. What happened to it? He's got it back there. Okay.
Kṛṣṇa, thank you. I have a question that, we know that...
I don't know if I know yet. You have to say what you want.
Yeah. That by intelligence we understand everything. That he speaks that Krishna is everywhere. He is manifest in different ways. So there is nothing instead Krishna. Everything is Krishna.
Yeah.
But this intelligence level is just like less powerful than the emotion level. Yeah? And on the emotion level, our emotions absorb us, and so we feel like I'm body.
Right.
And Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita that only when we test this higher test, then it's possible that emotions will overcome these material emotions like this.
Spiritual emotion.
Yeah. No, so when and this process of bhakti is just give up all layers of this.
Give up what?
Give up layers of this
Layers.
darkness, no, like ignorance.
Yeah. Okay.
This is like covered.
I know there's a question in here somewhere. We'll find it.
And how to say that no, this is very interesting. That intelligence level very simple to understand, but when we until we on Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, or read books or something like this, then we understand it. But when our senses, our emotions influence on us, and we forgot this, and we act like body, like emotions.
We have to control the lower self by the higher self. See, this is why I like to quote that verse, where, let's assume it's by Madhavan Puri. I think I've read this lecture by Bhaktisiddhanta where he attributed this verse, but it's located in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. And he's just beginning the section on Abhideya, on the practice of devotion. The first part, Jivera Sodapoi, Krishna and Nitya Das, who am I, and all these things. Now the practice. So the verse goes like this. Prabhupada would always quote this verse. Kamadinam katina katita palita durni deshas. Tesham jata maina karuna nattapano pashanti. Utsrijaitan atayodapate sampratam labdha buddhis. Tvamayatak shadanamabhayam mam niyung swatmadasya. So it's a very illuminating verse. Give me a second here. So I put it in a poem. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. So I try to include all the ideas in there. And when I first read this, I thought of a scene from, forgive me, because I spent many years not in the movement, from a movie I saw when I was a kid. And it was about something, Egypt and the slaves, and so, they made movies like that, And they were in a boat, and they had to row, all the slaves had to row, And there were guys in there with whips, and work harder, move harder. And so they were slaves doing that. And I thought of that's the image of, those are the evil desires forcing you to act against your own best interests, And you're right, they influence your intelligence, The intelligence becomes contaminated with all of these evil tendencies. I mean, what does it mean that we're obsessed with greed? Where does that lie? It doesn't just lie in the mind. The mind is telling us, I want this, I want this. But the actual greed is there in the intelligence. And the soul is receiving that this world is full of things that I want, but I can never have enough, like whatever. So it's a disease of the soul, but the agents that help, that keep you in there is the contaminated intelligence and consciousness. So the process, you mentioned that by hearing, associating, then you can get knowledge of these things, that God is everywhere, just like what are we learning here? We're learning this. But then there's, as you say, there's a conditioning that you have. And when you're out of the association, then you're on your own, you're walking on the street or whatever, then what happens? If you're not vigilant, if you're not chanting, if you're not making the effort, then that old idea and that old tendency can then overtake you. So it's a kind of a battle between your conditioning and your new mind, intelligence, ideas, and will. That's this thinking, feeling, willing of the mind. The thinking, that's the intelligence is there. And if you think properly and you cultivate, you chant and you practice, then the feeling will change. You won't have any feeling, an emotion, a desire to go eat meat or intoxication or anything like that. The desire will actually not be there anymore. Now, if you get bad association, then it'll come up again. But we don't want to do that. We know by our high intelligence, no, this is bad for me. This is disastrous. I'm going to get another body, probably a subhuman body. I don't want that. So on that basic level of just for your own self-interest, getting free from these contaminating and harmful thoughts and ideas and tendencies in your side, then you stay in the good association of the devotees, the books, everything related to Krishna consciousness. And before long, your intelligence is being strengthened. That's the whole point of this verse. Now my intelligence, I've regained my strong intelligence, I'm rejecting those desires. But I know that if I'm not serving you, my Lord, that they'll come back. So you are the shelter of fearlessness. Please engage me in your service, so that even the tendency to desire will be the seed will be burned. The seed of these evil desires will be burned, and it cannot rise again. So it's a struggle, and all of our elements, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, have to be properly engaged, so that we can get the strength of will to say no to the mind when these thoughts come up again and these ideas come up again. Because they will, especially in the neophyte platform when you're first beginning. And that's why Prabhupada's mission was so incredible, that he was able to succeed, to create a society where he could inspire certain people to become strong bhaktas, and they in turn, when he's not around, even departed the world, they could in turn give protection to others by their own behavior and by their activities and everything. And that's the ISKCON movement. So it's possible, but you're right. The emotions are oftentimes, trouble. That they're trying to move us one way that we know is not the way that is going to help us in devotional life. So at that point, there is this one important asset that we have: prayer. To chant the Hare Krishna mantra prayerfully, and to adopt some of the wonderful prayers that we've been given, hundreds of them, thousands of them. That verse I said is actually a prayer. Please give me your service and the ocean of fearlessness. So come before the Lord, and we can offer the prayers of Queen Kunti or Bhishma Dev or others that we may. Or just our own sincere prayer. I always like to emphasize. You probably heard before that the chanting the holy name is the basis of everything. So the Acharyas, Rupa Goswami gives us a prayer, several prayers, where you're praying to the name. You're praying to the Hare Krishna mantra, who's not different from Krishna. Please let me have a constant taste for you. Let me have, whenever I chant, let it be so sweet that I don't want to stop. And we read about that, Because if you're enjoying chanting the Holy Krishna mantra, nothing can take. They're like Haridas Thakur, in the middle of the night, a prostitute comes, he converts her into a pure devotee. Maya Devi herself comes, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And on the other side, there's two sides of tolerance. One is to tolerate the allurements of Maya, and the other is to tolerate the beating over the head that Maya gives you. And he tolerated both, right? They were going to kill him, said, "Can't kill me, I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna." And he didn't even feel anything. Lord Chaitanya was on his back, the whole thing. So that's the perfect example. But even as we progress in devotional service, we can feel that shelter of the Lord, taking away or reducing the fire of material desire. And it's possible to, even though you have that material desire, to tolerate it until it really goes away. And that's Krishna's blessing. Jnana and Vairagya.
Thank you. You mentioned that devotional service will help us, but I understand this devotional service should be, our mind should be engaged, because of if we chant but our mind not engaged, there no effect. And so
well, there's some effect, but it's a dangerous platform. That's why you don't want to offend the holy name. We want to get all the blessings of the holy name, to hear every syllable, 32 syllables. Hare Krishna. That's why sometimes I find it helps if because we're chanting, we want to finish our rounds, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. But then it's chanted really slowly at one point. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So you really meditate on each syllable. There's a, I think it may be in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation of the Shikshastika, but he says one of the benefits of Harinam Sankirtan, is that you're generally having a kirtan where your chanting is slower than you do during japa, right? So that you can more easily focus and concentrate on each syllable of the name during Harinam rather than japa. Japa you get you're supposed to concentrate, but you can easily get merged in because it's going so fast. But the Sankirtan allows you to really focus on every syllable. But still, you got to consciously put your mind on it, because there's so many other things going on. So it's really, that's where the yoga comes in, where the mind focus on all these things. And that's why the prayers are so nice. What is it? Narada vino jivana sadomi niryasamaduri pura tam Krishna nama kamam spudame vasane vasena sada. Oh, holy name, you are the inspiration of the vina of Narada, vino jivana sudhormi niryasa. You're a thick river of the highest nectar, sweetest nectar. Sudhormi niryasa, madhuri pura, a flood of sweetness. The devotee's name, who sings so nicely, his name Madhuri Pura Das. Tvam Krishna nama kamam. This word kamam, not kama, but kamam, means pleased, if you please. You see? Please, may I always chant your name with great taste. May I always taste you as very, very sweet. Because as long as we're tasting the sweetness of the holy name, we are in good shape. The Maya is not going to allure us, and we'll be really enthused to perform services for Krishna. We'll be in a constitutional position. When the mind wanders, all things come up, and we're inattentive, that's when we're vulnerable for Maya. That's the best I can do, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Hare Bol. Thank you for your attention. So we did just do one verse. So we're on 58. 58 tomorrow.